when the world has got you down. And
Alzheimer's sucks. It's an equal opportunity disease that chips away at everything we hold dear. And to date, there's no cure. So until there is, we continue to fight with the most powerful tool in our arsenal, love. This is Love Conquers Alls, a real and really positive podcast that takes a deep dive into everything Alzheimer's, the good, the bad, and everything in between. And now, here are your hosts, Susie Singer-Carter and me, Don Priest.
All right. Oh my God, here we go. Hi everybody, I'm Susie Singer-Carter.
And I'm Don Priest, and this is Love Conquers Alls. Hello, Susan.
Hello, Donald. This is
How are
take
ya?
2, and just in case I feel like I need to be transparent because we got so excited about our guest today.
Indeed.
So,
for us, it's deja vu all over again because we
I know.
just said these things
We just
like
said 'em.
14
Maybe we'll be
seconds
better
ago.
at it this time. I don't know.
Yeah, I doubt it. Anyway,
I was
how are
talking
you?
about
What's going
wearing
on?
heels for the first time today, which was very exciting for me because I've been in tennis shoes for the past year and
a half?
2 months. Well,
More.
year and
Yeah.
2 months,
Well,
whatever. The
all right.
point is that those were for the gym only for me. Those are gym only shoes. And like today I was like, I literally had to take off my shoes in the parking lot and walk barefoot. And I have blisters to prove it. It's stupid. This is stupid.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But so worth it. I mean, because we actually went and we saw some friends still distanced, even though we're all in various stages of vaccine right now.
Yeah.
But we stayed distanced, but we saw some friends that we haven't seen in over a year. We saw actual human beings in person, and that was an amazing experience.
Not
And,
digital. Not digital.
no.
Like right there
No.
with like beating hearts and breathing and skin.
Everything.
It was great.
All of the things that go along with being a human being. And that was
Soon.
really kind of great. And it really kind of says that I think we're heading in the right direction. And every day we're getting closer and closer to some sense of normalcy. But
Of normalcy.
we'll see.
That's right.
We'll see.
Well,
but in the meantime,
I want to jump into this interview because I'm so excited about Dan Jaworski, our guest, who is giving us such a gift. He was diagnosed. Don's going to tell you about him more, but I just want to say that, here's somebody that is experiencing mild cognitive impairment, and he's here to share experiences and a firsthand POV of this experience that I wish I would have asked my mom when she was first diagnosed, but I didn't have the wherewithal. I had no idea what I was stepping
didn't know.
into.
Yeah.
So this is such a gift for all of us to be able to hear it from this point of view. And I have so many questions, so many.
Well, let's
so
get to it.
I hope he doesn't hate me by the end of this, but I think he's I think he's a prince. Anyway, Don, without further ado.
Well, there's no more ado. Dan Jaworski is our special guest today. He's a husband, father, soon-to-be grandpa, which doesn't seem possible. Dan managed international equity portfolios for corporations, pension funds, and endowments, and that experience allowed him the gift of traveling abroad in both developed and emerging countries. He's an avid basketball fan and has spent numerous years in the coaching world for both high school and Special Olympics. But in 2019, at the age of 54, Dan was diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, or MCI, which has sent him on a whole new journey in life. He is currently training for the Ironman Kona as part of his Alzheimer's Association's Longest Day campaign to raise awareness and funds supporting the fight to end Alzheimer's. And Dan's goal is to become the world's first Alzheimer's survivor, and we are all for that.
We
and
are
with
100%
that, and
for
no
that.
further ado, let us bring on Dan Jaworski. Hello, Dan.
Hello,
Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
So
How
happy.
you doing?
We're great. We're so happy to have you here. We're just we're thrilled. I just think you're extraordinary, and I get.
Tell my wife that, please.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
We'll share. You'll tell all my.
All
You'll
right,
tell my
yeah.
family. I'll tell your family.
Yeah, tell her I'm good. So, all right, go on. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, okay. So I read that when you were diagnosed, was it 2 years ago, right?
Yeah,
Or
about a year and a half,
ago.
basically,
Year
yeah.
and a half. And you are athletic, like Dawn had mentioned, and,
Yep.
and you were out running
Yeah.
when you got the call from the doctor, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what was that information like? when
Yeah,
you
well,
got
he
that?
said, because I'd gone through a whole series of tests, as you have been down this road before, you know, there's a whole things that you do, MRIs, EEGs, you know, PET scans, blood tests, all that kind of stuff. And so it's a long process. And so, you know, I hadn't never had a test for the amyloid to tau ratio in your cerebral spinal fluid. They'd take that out, and that was kind of the missing piece. And then and he called me. I was out running right by my house, and he said, I'm sorry to tell you this, but you've got mild cognitive impairment consistent with Alzheimer's, like to lead to dementia. And you know, so, okay, and then he added to this. It was comical now, but it wasn't comical then. He said the only way we can tell for sure is an autopsy. And I was thinking, okay, doc, I don't need that kind of certainty in your diagnosis. I'm going to trust you on this one. But at that moment, it was, you know, it's like I'd kind of expected that that's where we were going to get to, just because all the other tests I had all been, every single test I had basically failed on in some way, shape, or form. And so I knew there was, you know, if in all likelihood, just the trajectory of all the prior tests led me to believe that was going to happen.
Right.
And so that was, you know, it was one of those moments where it was like, okay, this is it's a blow, and it knocked me down on my knees for a minute, and then we hung up, and the first thing I did, the first thing that came to my mind in that moment was, you know, early on in the whole diagnosis process, my doctor had said to me, you know, if you have a bucket list, you need to start doing it. So you know your trajectory is a little bit different, or things have changed a bit when they say that. And so when I got this diagnosis, the first thing that came to my mind is the Ironman Kona. This is something that I've always wanted to do, but you have to qualify, and realistically for me, that probably I would not be able to do that until age 75, just how you have to be so super athletic. And so I just called them up and I said, hey, this is my story. And of course, nobody answered their phone. So I just called and left message after message in all these mailboxes. I don't know how many I left. I probably annoyed the bejesus out of them about how many I left. But long story short is they have a foundation, and I have gotten in, and I will be racing on October 9th.
Bravo.
I love it so
Awesome.
much. I can't tell you. I think it's so amazing. I think it's phenomenal, and you're a hero for.
I wouldn't say that, but it's been a fun process, and I've met
No,
so
but
many
it's a great role
interesting.
model because
Yeah.
it's inspiring because there's so many ways to go when you're hit with something like this, that is devastating in life, and literally devastating, and rather than crumple, you did for a second, but then you brought yourself up and went, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and you seized it, and you did it, and you seized the moment, and your moments, whatever moments they are, and no one's we're not guaranteed anything in life, right? So
absolutely,
no one
right.
is. We're all on the same trip, really,
Right,
and we're all
right.
on borrowed time, and so I learned that from. I don't know if you had a chance to see the film that Don and I did with Valerie Harper. She plays my mother in it, and my mother who has Alzheimer's. And Val was sick. She was diagnosed with cancer like 7 years before, given 3 months to live. And she literally lived. She just passed away a year ago, right after my film. But she said all the time, she said, listen, we're all, we're all on the same,
Right.
trip. We're
Yeah.
on the same trip. And she said, I'm not going to go there before I have to, but when I do, I do. And she's like, but
And
I'm not
make
going
it
to
the
go
best. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was such an inspiration and such an amazing woman. You couldn't
Yeah,
help. So
yeah.
contagious, so beautiful.
Yeah,
It really is.
they say on a long enough time horizon, all life expectancy goes to zero, right? We all know that's just kind of how the math plays out. So it's
Exactly.
really, while you're here, do what you can, right? That's so the first thing I did after getting diagnosed was get into the Ironman, and the second thing I did which is in very rapid succession of that. A couple of days later, I told my wife I'm getting a tattoo, and so I got a tattoo. It says Carpe Diem right here. It's seize the day which is
Oh,
kind of
that's
my,
funny. I just said that. Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of how I live, you know.
I love
Every
it.
day's a gift.
I have one with my mother's signature from a card that she gave me.
Nice.
A birthday card. Yeah. So it says,
Yeah.
"Always and ever your mom," and I love it
I'm
because
going
it's
to draw
like so,
something. I
Right.
don't have one, so I'm going to draw
so
something
personal.
right now.
You
and-
know, I love
Yeah.
it.
Right. Each of those are
Anyway,
stories.
I know. I love it. So
And by the way, before we, for those who do not know what the Ironman Kona is, because not
good
everyone
thing,
does,
Don.
it
Yeah.
is a triathlon. And a triathlon, tell us what a because this is not just
Yeah.
like I'm going to go out and do a little 5K.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us
No,
what,
no,
Tri-
no.
what
triathlon
it
is,
entails.
are different lengths, but this is a full triathlon, and that means you start with a 2.4-mile swim, and then after that you ride 112 bike, and then if you can finish that, you get to run a marathon or 26.2 at the end, and you've got 17 hours to get it done. So
And
Oh
those
my
are
God.
miles
It's a long
he's
day.
talking.
It's a long
Yeah, those
day.
are miles, 112 miles and 26.2
in
miles.
one day.
In
In
one-
one
yeah,
day.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, we're
That's
talking
incredible.
Yeah.
badass. Yeah, this is no joke. This is no joke.
No, it's an endeavor, and it's you know. But for me, I just with the diagnosis, I like having something hard to do. I really enjoy that aspect, and I feel when I'm out biking, swimming, and running, I feel like the disease can't catch me when I'm
Exactly.
doing those things. So it's therapeutic, and it's good for me. I'd say mentally and physically and emotionally, kind of all
I love
rungs.
it. That's so
Beautiful.
important. It's so important because I agree. I think, you know, one of the things, if you're depressed or you're stressed, the best thing is exercise and using your body. I dance, and dancing it's like it's meditation for me because I can only think of what I'm doing at that moment. I can't think of anything else. There's no other
Right.
time, right? So you can only think of that, and I highly recommend it. Not to mention that it is good for your brain and that you are moving your blood around and you're getting things going because it, you know, being sedentary is a killer, and
Right.
it does nothing good for you. Absolutely zero, right?
Indeed.
Before you were diagnosed, what led you to being diagnosed? Was it
Right.
were you noticing changes? Was your family noticing changes?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, and I've asked people too that I've met the same thing. Because so for me, I had no idea. So we went on a family trip to Thailand in 2019, and on that trip, when we got back, my family kind of confronted me and said, "Look, you've been repeating yourself. You've been kind of asking the same questions. You know, something's off." And I was like, "I don't know what you guys are talking about." You know, I didn't have any sense of that. And then soon after that, my wife and I were driving to a small college. It's about two miles from my house, and I've been there hundreds of times. I'm friends with a guy that coaches there. I've been to hundreds of games there. And I looked at her and said, just Rollins College. I stopped the car and I said, how do we get to Rollins? And she said, what are you talking about? It's just Rollins. I said, I don't know how to get there. And at that moment, I knew that something was off. And that's what started me down. At that point, that's when I started the testing. Every case is unique, but for me, I didn't sense anything.
So, in that respect, for someone who didn't sense it, as opposed to people that do notice it, you know, I think as a daughter of someone who has Alzheimer's, if I forget anything, I begin to panic. Like honestly, like literally
Right.
panic. With my mother, I started to notice those signs that other people wouldn't have noticed because they didn't know her. Nobody else noticed but me. And I kept saying, something's off. Like she's repeating herself. She's not remembering things and I know this is wrong. And I would mention it to her and she'd go, "You're crazy."
Right.
Stop.
No, and that was probably I said the same things. I said, what are you talking about? And I think somebody, especially has a good vocabulary and things like that, you don't catch it that easily.
Yeah.
So it's different on that. It's funny. I just talked to a neurologist the other day, through a friend of mine, and I was asking him, well, how will I know if this thing is coming? He said, well, the one thing he notices is what he calls word biting, where they can't find a word. You know, like they're talking, and I'd be, okay, well, what was that I was, what was the word name for that thing? So I don't know if your mom had those kind of things.
I have
really
those
didn't
all
have
the
that.
time.
Yeah, I mean,
I have them occasionally, but I mean, we all do, right? We all forget
Yeah.
something. So just because you forgot, where you put your keys doesn't mean you have, Alzheimer's.
Right, and it's
Right.
that's what makes it hard, because I do forget words sometimes, and I'm a writer, and I'll forget. I'll go, oh my God, I can't think of the word. It's the perfect word. I want to say this word, and I'll get panicky inside. And then I have 2 daughters, and they'll say, Mom, we forget words all the time. It's
Some
right?
memory decline happens in. I mean, that's the
natural.
natural part of the aging process. And what we're talking here is how to know when it's just that versus outsized, and that's a question I've grappled with as well. So yes.
So you
Yeah.
have. So someone like you who has your loved ones, they'd sit you down and almost like an intervention, so to speak, right? To say, listen, we've noticed this about you. I can only use my mother as a reference for me, but when I finally did, she was so very resistant to it, and didn't want to hear anything about it, and it was so difficult for me to try to convince her to go and have a test. I guess I love the fact that you didn't know, and yet you still believed your family and decided to go for the test.
Yeah, to me,
that
it's
must
like,
have been-
I'm going to gather the information. I'm smart enough. My primary doctor, she's a wonderful lady, and I trust her opinion very much. So if she thinks so, my family thinks so, I'm going to go down there, because I don't have any kind of medical background. And so let's go down the road. Let's go test it out. And I knew early on in the testing process, because some of those tests where you go through 4 hours of these different kinds of questions, and they read you a story and they ask it back to you, and you have trouble remembering hardly any of that. At that point, I knew, okay, this is, something is off. Something I knew then when I was doing it that something was off. So I'm not resistant at all to that. I'm like, okay, if I have it, I have it. I can't change. I always tell people, I can't change what happens to me, but I get to choose how I respond. And so that's like with anything in life. And so if you have that mentality, you can say, all right, well, so from today going forward, what's my best course of action? And that's, what can I do to live my best capable life as long as I can? And there are things I can do. I mean, there are levers that I can pull, and that's what I'm going on. There are lifestyle things. There's not really much in the way of drugs or anything helpful like that, really, right now. My factors are really lifestyle, diet, exercise, brain engagement, and sleep, and those are the things that I can control. Diet is probably the biggest one. So I adopted the Mediterranean diet the day they told me to do it, and so I'll never eat a hamburger. I'll never eat pepperoni pizza again. I mean, I'm good with this. If I'm one thing, I can change gears. I can go from 0 to 60 on something. So I'll never eat a donut. I'll never do any of those type of things. And so I eat lots of salads but I like a lot of that stuff too. So it's not that bad for me.
Okay, let's go back to the
Sure, I would like to
donut.
eat pepperoni pizza every now and then, of course.
Let's go back to the donut. Wait a minute. Go back to the donut. What do you mean you don't eat a donut? So you can't eat donuts anymore?
I can't. I probably could,
sugar.
but I'm stronger if I don't. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I feel better mentally if I don't have any exceptions, which my wife thinks
No
is
sugar.
really boring.
So talk about sugar. Sugar's bad?
Well, yeah. I mean, sugar is bad. The only area that I do draw a line on that is, so like when I'm training or on a bike, I've got to bring some kind of nutrition with me. And so I do have some kind of the bars, the healthier ones, but there is obviously going to be some sugar in there.
Right,
Yeah.
because you need carbohydrate.
But processed sugar,
Right, I do.
processed sugar.
And there's you can get them liquid wise on your bike, but it's pretty hard to do that completely.
Yeah, gotcha.
So we know how you responded to it. So let's talk about your family, because that's a whole nother thing, because the support of others is obviously very important.
Yeah.
How old were your children, or are they
Well,
now?
about
Are they-
28 and 24 right now.
Okay, so they're not kids,
Just
they're-
back it up
they're
2
adults.
years, right, for each of
Yeah.
them.
So, how did they take the news, and then how did you come up with a family plan? How did that
Yeah, I mean, I
manifest?
think they kind of they knew before I did, all right? And I think my family was great, because they just supported me, and they know that I'm going, like I said, I'm trying to live for today and to be in the moment and to win the battle of today. And if I do that, that's all any of us have is this today. We don't. None of we just know if we're going to wake up tomorrow, right?
That's right.
And so that's kind of the philosophy. They know I'm good. They know that I'm fighting this thing as hard as I can, and that's all anyone can really do. So
Beautiful.
I think under the circumstances, we're doing. I tell people, other than the disease, I'm doing great. You know.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like my mom used to say, "Mommy, how are you doing?" She goes, "I'm alive. I'm great." That's what she say.
Yeah.
Oh, she says that.
So
She loved.
I would, what I feel that I said the guilt part is that if I lose the battle, right, and my cognitive abilities go down, it's a tough draw for a spouse or for kids to be caregivers because it can consume your lives, it can consume your resources. It's lonely. It's a brutal process watching somebody's memories and then they kind of forget. So that can be a really hard thing. So I think that the collateral damage is not you, it's your family, and that can be that plus the money of that. Like the average cost is close to $300,000 to $400,000. If the person goes into memory care and that type of thing. And then like for me personally, like I tell people, there are some conversations and things I just don't share with my wife. There's just some thoughts that I think that are, and I think that's probably true of any life-threatening disease. that are just hard to share, and so some of that stuff you end up just carrying by yourself.
Because you want to protect them, or
I mean it's like I don't really want to burden her with that stuff. There are certain things that I just don't want to put on her because I know that her road, if it does go hard, it's going to be hard enough.
But those of us that embrace the people that we love, they're not a burden. It's hard because we don't want to see them going down this road.
Right.
And so for that reason, it's hard. The burden, financial burden, no question about it. But as far as it being a personal burden for me, I'm just sharing that with you. It's not because I love my mom so much and I want to be there for her. I wish I could be there better and more, but I've done the best that I can.
Right.
And that's all I can do.
I believe that, and I know that to be true for my kids, but I don't want to, wrong word maybe, but to saddle them in the prime of their lives by having. I want them to grow and to thrive and I don't know. I don't want to diminish that. I don't want to be the reason for that. We
just said that about it because my mother said to me, "You have your own life to live." When she would have her lucid moments, and she goes, "You have to put me in a place that I can be taken care of, and you need to live your life." And I said, I always tell this joke, and I always go, "Oh, you're going. Believe me, you're going."
You sass me, you're going. Right.
You are going. Don't even worry about that. But and she said, and I know that's for real. That is my mother's point of view. Always was that I don't want you have a life to live. You have one life, and she wants me to enjoy my life. So. And I get it. I think it's really wonderful that you're sharing that because most caregivers feel guilty. Even with knowing my mother doesn't want to.
Right. But know that they want you to. I mean, they want you to live and to thrive and it's okay to take a break and to be tired and to want to be doing something else at that moment. So I think all those feelings are fine. You should not be. Don't let those drag you down at all. All you're doing for your mom is awesome. I mean, it's so great.
Thank you. With
Oh,
everybody, that's so helpful to hear it, isn't it? Like whoever's listening. I mean, I just think that's such we know that, but to hear it from somebody who's a father like you, to say that, with all of your, everything, your wits are there and you're saying it from the heart, and we just need to hear that because we feel guilty. I didn't see my mom for 1 week. I feel guilty. Well, we can't always.
Right. Hey, if my daughter wants to go on a trip somewhere and she can't make it, I'm so fired up that she can go. She can go backpacking in the Himalayas or whatever the crazy next thing she's going to do.
Yeah.
So I want her to. I love it. I mean, them thriving is going to be making me happy. That's
happy.
Right.
Hear that and get that. Hear that and get that. It's so important in everybody. That's so important for us as caregivers to hear that because that's if your parents love you or your spouse loves you or your siblings, that's what they want.
Absolutely.
That's just what they want, right?
I agree.
Don, before you
It's-
go to
it's-
another question, I wanted to just, before we switch to any other questions, we talked about lifestyle changes, and I just wanted to ask what else in the lifestyle changes that you...
Sleep, I'm trying to get at least 8 hours a night. And I've got a little device on my wrist called a Whoop strap. It's kind of like a Garmin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I see it. I see it.
Yeah, it measures your sleep and patterns and things like that. And there's a lot of science about the amount of sleep that you get and the brain activity and cognitive ability and all of that. And just it's kind of the wash cycle of your mind, right, when you sleep. So that's something that, I mean, I'm pretty boring because I go to bed pretty early, but it's very important to me because I think that's one of the few things that I can do, and I feel so much better when I get a lot of sleep.
Is 8 hours still the
It's
optimum?
kind of about, yeah, that's around the mark. And really, it's hard to get 8 hours of sleep. It just
It is.
is. So, I mean, 8 usually means 7 to 7.5, but that's, I mean, I'll be going to bed as soon as we're done talking here tonight.
Oh, really?
And
That's good, though, that you're doing it.
Yeah, but
And
I'm
you
pretty
sleep
tired
well.
too. Yeah, well, when you exercise a lot, it helps too because at night you're usually pretty tired.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
it's
And then what else besides the diet? So we have diet and sleep, and what other changes did you make?
Brain engagement. So right now I'm learning Spanish. So I'm using Duolingo, which is a thing on there. I'm
¿Y
brain
cómo
age-
estás? ¿Es bien?
Yeah, ¿cómo está? ¿Qué
Yeah.
pasa? And then I'm on Brain HQ, which is a little bit of the neuroscience people have put together. So it's a bunch of different kind of brain games that you do every single day.
I
And
have
as you
that
get,
app.
Do you, If you do that? It's hard.
Yeah, I
Some
have
of
the
that is
app.
really
yeah,
hard.
yeah.
I do the Sudoku, eating and brushing my teeth with my non-dominant hand. Have you heard that? That was
No,
Sanjay
but
Gupta. That's his thing. He said that using your non-dominant hand forces you to it's hard. It takes me 3 times as long to brush my teeth, and my food's spread everywhere when I eat because I'm stuck with my left. And I got toothpaste all over my face, but. No, I mean that's just trying to make things, learning a new skill, learning something
Right.
different. My wife's just threw out a bunch of our old furniture and is getting a billiard table for us. So we're going to learn how to play
cool.
billiard. So
Cool.
yeah, I mean,
And,
it's
yeah.
all kinds of ways to challenge your mind like that. And then I'll start back to yoga and Tai Chi again. I'm vaccinated. I'm not, COVID-wise, I'm feeling better. It's just about being around people. So I'll start back on those type of things too. So anything that I think there's some science based behind it, I'm gonna hit it. So
Right. So learning new things always is
absolutely
good.
right. Anything that really engages you is reading.
Yeah.
Anything to keep the mental juices flowing.
Right.
Yeah, and creating a new experience. A new something that is not the same thing that you're used to doing.
Right.
Anything and along those lines,
anything.
yeah, it is something just like now you're creating a new memory almost.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's a big
yeah.
part of it. You can't
Yeah.
just do the same thing over and over. So that's why it's good to go into like uncharted waters and just test yourself with different things. And so
Totally.
anything like that along that line, I'm going to try to pick it up or at least try it. And like I said, I'm trying to follow the science as best I can on that, but I'm willing to try just about any of those type of things.
Yeah.
Now, as far
I
as you-
get the sense that. Oh, go ahead, Suze.
I was just going to say, as far as your memory at this point, are you having trouble remembering dates and times that you're supposed to be somewhere, and if so, you're not?
Not really, but some. I mean, if you talk to my wife, she'd probably say some of that. You wouldn't
Okay.
remember. But I have had a few nights, to be honest, where I've woke up and I'm thinking, okay, what exactly were my kids' birth dates? And I had to go. I mean, this is where you kind of get into things like, I know it's this date, and then you get up and you go down and you look downstairs and you get out the birth certificates. It's like, okay, so I'm not. Sometimes I'm not strong on my confidence level of what I believe on some of that. So
Understood.
Yeah.
But as far as if you had an appointment, are you
Yeah.
finding that you're okay with that
yeah,
stuff?
right. I haven't really missed anything or anything like
Gotcha.
that. But
Gotcha.
somebody may have told me something, and like, oh shoot, I forgot. Like my wife she'll say, "Are you purposely forgetting to do that?" Yeah, but
Right.
no, not pretty low on that, really.
Yeah, you
So
can
you
use it
don't
as a
need any
nice excuse when
assistance
you
in
don't want to
that.
do something.
No, I'm good. I mean, the one thing that would really suck from just the people I've talked to, and I've met through, I mean, I was never on Instagram at all till this whole thing. I was never on social media, and one of the reasons I got on it was because I was trying to find other people like me, and I found, you know, all these other people, but most of the people are you know, in worse shape, or they're not even able to drive, and that was hard talking to them, and that's where they felt like kind of the biggest change of their life was when they lost the ability to drive.
Oh yeah.
You know, so then
Yeah,
all of a
lose
sudden
that
you've got to have
independence,
someone else
yeah.
get you there, and then, you know.
It's huge. It's a huge.
Yeah.
It was huge for my mom. It's huge for everyone I've talked to. It's very significant. It's a
Right.
significant loss for many reasons. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
and
it's
so
difficult.
I mean, the big one, as I say, a lot of it is just forgetting words, and I'll have some of that, but I had some of that before, so it's hard
Yeah.
to know if has it gotten a lot worse, or just a little bit, or that. And I think, you know, and what I was always a little tricky at this too is, do you know if your family members are going to give you an honest answer? You know, I always tell them to, if you see something, you need to let me know. Don't be nice, be honest with me. You know,
You're a dream. You're a dream person to have this, because with my mom, I didn't know what to say, and I look back at like home movies, and I just cringe, because I think I used to say to her, "Mom, what day is it? Come on, you know this. Come on." And I would test her, and she'd go, "Stop, you're addling me. If I'm addled, I can't remember," you know. And I
Right.
wanted her to remember so bad, and I obviously I'm completely different. I've learned how to embrace it and lean into it, and make it easy on her, and respect it. But you don't know, so you think if you push them and go, "Come on, you know this," you know, it's like, you know, when your daughter was born.
Convince them, yeah,
Right,
yeah. You can
right.
talk them into memory.
Does she get agitated? Does she get agitated
She
easily?
did, yeah. She's
Okay.
on a she did.
She did, yeah.
She-
She's out of that stage now.
She's
yeah.
out of that stage. She's 15 years, so she's you know, she's pretty much in her final time.
Okay,
her final
gotcha,
stages.
gotcha,
But
all right.
Yeah.
but during the time that I wrote the movie about was the hardest time, because if you didn't know her, you wouldn't know there was anything wrong with her until she might repeat something, like say, "Wow, you're a good-looking guy," and then 5 minutes later go, "Hey, you're a
Right.
good-looking guy. Does anyone tell you that?" And you're like, "Wait." Then you know, but other than that, she was so good at like fake, you know, getting, you know,
right.
nobody really knew. So she would get agitated, because I'd say, "Mommy, you just that's your third banana." She'd say, "No, it wasn't. Okay, I'm sorry, I won't eat your bananas."
Right.
Right? Because
Yeah.
and
I'll
then
just
I
go
thought,
home now. Yeah.
I'll go home now.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
I'm you know, and I would think, is it better to just say it to her, like, "Mom, I love you, but that is your third banana, and you have to believe me." And I don't, you know, but at some point I had to not even say it, because it would upset her so much that we just hid the bananas.
Right.
That's one thing I wanted to touch on, is that reacting to, like, having your family, how they deal with it. Would you prefer that they treat it lightly and with humor, meaning that we don't take it like, if there's something that you don't remember, to say, "Hey, you know," but how do you feel comfortable with them dealing with you on that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It's a great question, because I think like what you have is you're trying to gauge the sensitivity or the agitation level of the individual, right? And I'd like to know. So I mean, I want to know if I'm doing it, if I'm repeating myself, or we just had this conversation, or you told me to be somewhere and I'm not, you know, or something like that. I would prefer to know, just because I think that at least I can, you know, it's a way to at least address it and try to, you know, at least fix it if I can. But I can see where it's sensitive, because some people are going to get upset, you know, especially if they think that there hasn't been a prior conversation about this.
Is there a way that you would want to hear it? Meaning that, would you want them to kind of joke it a little bit?
Yeah,
or
I mean,
just
I
say,
think humor sells better than, you know, usually, you know, funny it usually works, you know, you at least are going to get them to smile for a while.
Totally.
Yeah, so
Totally.
humor's a good way to do it. But I'm a big one of trying to hit it face on, if you've got to, you know, to not couch it and to not ignore it, but to bring it up, and, you know, but not to, if you can see them agitated, and you know, some people, once they do that, they shut down too, right? They depending on the individual.
Yeah.
Well, it's very fluid. It's a fluid sort of thing, like our moods are, you know. So I liken it to just a mood. So if my mother would get agitated, you just have to ride it out for a second because it will change. It's very fluid, you know. And when there was not that this is going to happen to you because everybody's ride is different, but some people get. When they don't know where they're at, they get very disoriented for a second, and and forget who is who. And often, when my mom was living with me for a year, she thought my daughters were my friends,
Right.
and that they were there, and she would get feel like she was intruding or she was being pushed out of the And I'd say, Mom, and she would be snippy. She'd get snippy, which isn't like my mom at all because she's very loving and loves her family. And later, like we would cry because we didn't know where it was coming from. We didn't get it because we didn't know anybody that had Alzheimer's before.
Right.
So later I would tell her, Mom, you hurt Madeline's feelings when you said that. And she goes, what? What did I say? And then she'd cry herself. She'd go, I would never say that to her. And I said, of course you wouldn't. But I just want to tell you that you do that. How can we work on it so you don't do that? But she didn't have control over it.
Right.
Yeah, you can't work on that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think
hard.
I think it must be very frightening at that stage. I mean, you're there's a confusion and a frightening, and you're in a new environment even though you're not, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you're so if you were to be teleported somewhere and all these strangers are around you and it's very different, I think we would all have a different react. We'd understand better. Our empathy would be greater of that. But because no one thinks I do this thing, that's my mom, and she's just, what's wrong? Why is she acting like this? Or, why is she paranoid? Or, people think people are trying to kill them. My great aunt was like that, when she was, in her later stages.
Is
I was
this
gonna ask that.
hereditary then? Yeah, we were
I've
just going to
got
ask
some.
that.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to ask you, did you have it in your
Yeah.
family? And if so, is it something that you have dealt with as almost as a caregiver?
No, I haven't, but my dad was tested recently, which is weird because he's 30 years older than me. And so my dad was going through I was in the room when they were asking him all the questions. Who's the president? What day of the week is it? Count backwards from 100 by
100.
sevens.
Did they do the clock with the hands?
Did the clock, yeah. The clock's the standard one, yeah. They draw the clock.
The clock was the one my mom failed, and that was the day my heart dropped when she went like this and didn't know what to do.
Right, it is weird, but it's also weird when you're watching your dad do it. Think about
Yeah.
that.
No, that I watched my mom do it.
And I've
yeah.
already gone through it. It's like this is not the normal order of things typically, right? And so that was a.
I just have so many questions. So wait, so knowing that and seeing your aunt go through it, your aunt, right? You said.
Yeah.
And the stages that are coming. I hope this isn't insensitive. How are you?
You can ask anything.
Okay, thank you. Are you? How would you want to be addressed during those different stages? Because as a caregiver, we stumble through it, and I tried to do my best, and that's why I moved my mom in with me after my stepdad died, because she was having Groundhog's Day, and every time I told her he died, it was fresh.
Yeah.
And so it was cruel, and I didn't know what to do, but I finally said she has to move. All my friends, Dawn, my daughters, we just packed up her stuff because she was going to be moving in with my stepdad to an assisted living. It was terrible. I just said, no, she's coming home.
Right.
Pack her bags. But, man, it was, you get so much different advice, which was don't tell her that he died because it's cruel. And I thought, no, she has to finally get it. Like, there's going to be a brain cell it's going to stick. I just have to figure out how to do it. So every time she asked me for the next 2 weeks, I showed her the memorial and said, you were there. It was beautiful. Georgie's not here. And finally, after 2 weeks, she asked me, where's Georgie? And I said, I just looked at her and she said, he died. And I said, yep. She got it and never asked again.
Right. Okay.
And I think, for you reaching that stage, it would I guess no, I feel like this is such a weird question. It would be so helpful as a caregiver to feel what you're feeling, because I wanted to ask my mom so much, what are you feeling?
What are your wishes, kind of a thing?
Yeah, what are you, and what does it feel like? Well, how can I make it better for you? Like, I know she was scared, but she wouldn't say it. And how can I make it less frightening?
Right.
For
I don't know
her.
if there is anything you can do. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it sounds like you're doing all the things you can. And I think, you can't be inside of your mom's mind, but I guess you've got a pretty good understanding right now, I think, of what you're fighting against. It's really what is her wishes for you, I think, in
Right.
that. And I think that's kind of the real question, I guess, and I think what would you want for your own kids? What would you want in a similar situation? I don't want.
I
I don't want.
yeah.
What I mean.
I was going to say, I tell my girls, if anything happens, remember, I like my hair a certain color and lip liner. Just remember that.
Right.
We like to keep it funny because
Right,
that's the
right.
best. That's the best way. Yeah.
But
I
it-
don't
And I
want
guess
them
you
to be
don't
sad.
know. I mean, you don't know when you don't, meaning that you don't remember when you didn't remember.
Right. No, it's too late at that point. I mean, you have
Yeah.
no. Right. And it brings up kind of the whole euthanasia concept too, and what everybody's got different opinions on that. But I
Yeah.
believe me, being on this side of it, I understand that completely.
Yeah.
I personally, if I lose the battle, I don't want to sit in some vegetative state in some hospital because I'm going to live for a long time because I'm too damn healthy.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah. Hell
I
yeah.
am. I really. I mean, I'm in great shape right now because I train all the time and do this. So, if I lose my cognitive capabilities, I'm going to be in some bed, in some facility for decades. That does not sound
that's my
appealing
mother.
at all.
That's my mother. That's why it's 15 years, because her body is so healthy.
Yeah, but
That's
I mean,
why
if I lose them all, I mean, if I don't recognize anything, that's just my personal view. I mean, that's
Yeah.
Well, listen, I
then
think
it's the
we all
matter of
grapple with
taking-
that.
yeah.
Then
Because
it's a matter
I
of
say, what is the
finding
quality? What is the quality? And that's something that, as a caregiver, because my mom used to say, Susie, I don't want, not me. If that happens, bye-bye, please. She would tell me, please. What's the
Who said
point?
that?
My mother would
mom?
say it
Her
to
mom,
me.
yeah.
But then as she was progressing,
Yeah.
I become mommy.
Right.
And that's okay for me, and she's happy, she's very content, even
Yeah.
at the stage that she's at. So there's a point where you cross over the bridge, I say, and then they become
Right.
very content, and I could not give that directive. I could not.
I understand that is I understand that conversation very well, and that is an act of love for her to ask you that.
Yes,
It is.
yes,
It is.
I know
It is a
that.
conversation I have had, and I get that.
I get that you get that. Emotional.
Hmm.
Whew. Okay.
Have you, so you're the fundraising program that you're doing right now,
Yeah.
which is the Ironman for Alzheimer's. What do you hope to achieve? You're raising the money right now.
Yeah.
What's your goal with that?
Now, I had the worst campaign in the history of the Alzheimer's Association because I asked people not to give me money. I did.
And you know what?
Seriously, I did.
And
If you look in the thing, I said I don't really want. I was at that moment because I'm newly diagnosed, a pandemic starting. I'm trying to find people with Alzheimer's. I got in touch with the Alzheimer's Association, and I got on social media, and I started finding out all these people, and I initially was kind of blown away by just how tough people like you have had it with your mom, just how hard it is being a caregiver. Because I was either found people that that had died. They had people that had died from the disease. They were taking care of them, and then I've also found a few people, less people out there that had the disease that were on that type of thing. And so I didn't want to ask them for money. I wanted to do something. And so that's where I kind of came up with the whole, because I was doing the Ironman, I wanted to dedicate each of my miles to somebody that had the disease.
What would you say is one of the silver linings so far of being diagnosed?
I would say I've just met so many really wonderful people that have been impacted by the disease, kind of online, just people that have been willing to share their stories with me, and that are just so, some are just so tough, but they're just, I tell people there's beauty and strength in the struggle in the Alzheimer's community. I just believe that. And just some of the people, like I mentioned before that I talk to people, I've got people from all over the world that are coming with me, I think, to Kona. Not physically coming with me, but a part of that. So, I mean, there's one lady that I just keep thinking of her, Catherine. She escaped Nazi Germany with her 2 sons and made it to the U.S. without knowing any English, and then she ended up getting the disease and dying from the disease. But I mean, there's just stories like that are just so powerful, that have had it so much, So there's just so many. I don't know. There's so many human interest stories to me. So much beauty in the pain, I guess, is the way to put it.
It really is. Well, it's like how, diamonds they're made under extreme pressure. You can't have a diamond without pressure, right? And that's what makes them, right? And so from that comes the beauty. And from my mother's disease, I'm such a better person, and I'm a wiser person, and I'm a more grateful person.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I've kind of come up with a 3-prong thing for how I want to live the rest of my life, and the first one is gratitude, and I just believe that. I'd say this every single day. I say, thank you, God, for the gift of today, because I am me, meaning my brain's working, and I'm here. And then the other one is impact. I'm just trying to have impact on the other people. The people in this ALS community is, by definition, one of the big ones for me. And then adventure is just, I'm trying to fight this thing as hard as I can. I'm going to be, like I said to other people, I told my doctor that I said, he laughed at me when I told him this. I said, Doc, there's always an outlier. Someone's going to be the first survivor. I said, it's going to be me, and you can write the book. And he grunted. That's his entire response. He grunted.
That's a typical doctor.
Yeah,
I know.
right.
I love Outlier. I read that you wrote, that you said that, and I love that, because that should be the name of your book. That'll be the name of your book when you become that.
So that's my goal right now, is to try to do every single thing I can that way. And if I can find a way to beat it, and I'm willing to go to, I mean, I don't have many redeemable skills, but I'm tenacious. I got
You're
one
tenacious.
thing.
Well, hell yeah. You're doing Ironman.
Yeah,
You're tenacious, man. You're stubborn.
So I've got that one thing going for me, and so I'm gonna ride that puppy all the way to the end. So we'll try to.
But you're living right now. You're living a life. You're living a life less ordinary now than you probably would have been if this had not occurred.
Right. It changes your trajectory, but it also
absolutely.
Like I said, there is beauty and strength in this struggle, and there has been some beautiful aspects of this, and just some amazing people I've met, and people that are helping me out along this way, and have been rallying. I've got great friends and an unbelievable family, and I had a grandchild on the way. So I'm going to go in as long and as strong as I can, and we're trying to find a way to punch a hole in this thing.
And you're probably cherishing every moment, literally every moment that you cherish. You don't take things for granted. You wake up in the morning and go, wow, this is another day that I can cherish and do great things. Whereas, if you were on a different path, you may not have. You may be you're living maybe a richer life.
It's a more spiritual life, because it's really about being like Zen, living moment to moment.
And the moment.
Well, I say that to people all the time. I say, what the state that my mom is in now is so much like I just had my first granddaughter, right? And so it is very much, a mirror, like Benjamin Button. My mom is going one way and Eden is going the other way. And, and the patience that we have for the baby is the same patience we need from my mother. Is to say, this is what she can do. This is all of the skills she has at this moment.
Yeah.
And fair enough.
Right. There's a great statement, meet them where they are,
Yes.
meet them where they are. And that's not easy to do with your parents sometimes or with a child sometimes, but I think it's a beautiful philosophy, especially at where I think some of us are at, to try to meet that person where they are. And I think everybody's a lot happier. So, but you're right. I mean, I try not to have any bad days really, because I'm just so grateful that I'm here, and I'm just fired up that I have today, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get tomorrow, and that's right now. That's all I'm looking. I tell people I come out of the investment business, and that's where you look long term. But right now, I have my low beams on, and I'm just trying to stay in this moment right now, today, and then tomorrow I'm going to have a great day tomorrow too, and then after that, I have no.
Are you still working in the industry?
No, I'm not working full time. I'm still in the investment business, but really for myself only, and not for clients anymore.
Gotcha.
Right.
Do you find that you put yourself under any pressure because you want to make sure that you're living the moment? Do you think sometimes I'm not doing enough, or are you giving yourself permission to allow it to roll out as it rolls out?
Yeah, I don't feel under pressure to do any of that. No, I'm just trying to, like I said, I do all these brain games and all this, all these kind of different lifestyle things. I try to cork all that stuff off. I get up early, I hit all that, and then I get on the bike, or I get on swim or run or something like that. And then in the afternoons, trying to read and just trying to keep my mind as sharp as possible. So no,
Beautiful.
I mean, I feel like I said, other than the disease, I'm doing great.
You're doing great.
Life is good. Life is really good.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Better than most.
Maybe
Better
you
than
will
most,
be the
I gotta tell
outlier.
you.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
Dawn and I
I'm
will.
hoping.
We'll do a series based on you.
Yeah, maybe we can do a polka dance sometime together. Maybe that
I'll try that.
I'm Polish, so that's all I got. We just hop around and.
I'm a quarter Polish. I'll meet you there.
All right,
No problem.
all right,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I know you are, you said you don't want to ask people for money. You've done very well considering that you don't want to ask people for money. You had a $25,000 goal. You're at $70,000 right now. And
That's not easy to do, by the way.
that is not, believe me, we tried to raise
believe
money
me, I would
for
love
our
if people contributed to Alzheimer's Association.
So tell us where they can go to help with the Ironman for Alzheimer's team.
Yeah.
And you tell us a little bit of that information.
Yeah. So you just go to Alzheimer's Association. I actually don't know exactly the other than go to there, and then if you just put my name in there, or Ironman for Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
That
We'll
would
put it
be,
up.
yeah,
We'll put it
that
up
would
in the
be
notes.
great. Yeah, that would
Indeed.
be beautiful. So I mean,
Yeah.
the organization's fantastic. They do great work. I'm going to support them the rest of my days, and they're very good.
I have one.
you're doing
This is what it
amazing
was. I
things.
thought
Yeah.
of my question. You said you read. Do you retain what you read?
Yeah,
When you're
I think
reading?
I
You
do.
said
Yeah, I've always been
you do.
a good reader. Yeah, I mean, I do. I'm more of a skimmer, and so it's always been Yeah, I mean, I go quick when I read, and so I'm kind of the trying to get the critical factors, and so I think
Gotcha.
because being in the
Yeah.
investment business, there's an infinite amount of information, so you have to condense it to a meaningful form to make decisions, and so I
Got
think
it.
it's like probably in any business, right? And so I just try to get the I'm a critical factor seeker. I want to know what there's usually a few things to make any kind of decision, and then the rest is kind of noise or irrelevant.
Understood. Interesting. No, because at some point, you can't retain what you read, correct?
Right,
mean,
I
that will
guess. I
happen.
mean, yeah. I mean, I'm swimming against the current right now, so I'm
No,
gonna keep
but I
going,
love
and
it. I love what you're doing, and I love that your perspective. Taking what you do and how you framed your life always, and the way that you framed, your work. Everything is feeding and serving how you're framing this journey.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's the best thing to do.
I think you can reframe anything that you have, any kind of really terrible situation. You can always come and try to optically look at it a little bit different, and then try to say, okay, what are my controllables, and I can focus on those. I can't worry about all the things that have been taken from me. I can worry about the things that I can control and go forward, and I want to be as positive and fun to be. I want my kids to want to hang around me for a long time.
Hell
So
yeah.
Are
you going to do a
have
TED
as
Talk
much fun
someday?
as a person can have with Alzheimer's along the way. That's one of my other
I think
goals
you
to
should do a TED Talk. I think you should do a TED Talk.
I did do one. I did
Did you?
It's not. So I contacted a guy I knew who works for, I don't remember if it's Google or Facebook or whatever. Said I had an idea, and he said that's great. And I was talking to him, and he goes, well, I said, and so I got it all together here recently, and I recorded it on my phone. And I said, here, I'm ready to try to get in there. And he said, well, they shut down for the whole year. They closed off. So I put it out there myself. So I put it on my Instagram thing.
Oh, you
And
did?
so, yeah, I did. It's 12 minutes long, and it's kind of this whole story.
I'll link it on the show because you're such an inspiration, honestly, like and such a breath of fresh air for all of us. And
Yeah, it was good for me because it took me. So it's 12 minutes long, and I memorized the whole thing, no cue cards, all that kind of stuff. And it's just kind of about the thing with Thailand, and there's a whole story about this monk in there that's kind of interesting, that was inspirational to me for. I don't know if you want to hear this story or not.
Yes,
from Thailand.
please.
That was so.
Yes,
When we were there in Thailand, we met this monk. He was actually born in Burma. His parents were killed, and he was smuggled to Thailand. And he taught us all about Buddhism, and he's actually he gave me these Buddha beads right here. I wear them every day.
I noticed those.
My
That's
wife
so cool.
wears hers as well. But he said 11 words that have kind of changed my whole attitude towards this thing. And he said, all life is suffering. What are you going to do about it? All life is suffering. What are you going to do about it? And that's how I've kind of come up with this whole, gratitude, impact, and adventure. That's just that whole mindset was, hey, everything that lives, that's Buddhism, is everything that lives eventually dies or gets old and sick. So what are you going to do to make this better? And that's kind of, that's where I came with that. I just love that strategy. I don't have time to sit there and feel bad for myself. I don't have time to say I might lose this because I'm going to lose it all anyway someday, right? So
exactly.
I love the Buddha. I love the Buddha.
I love the Buddha too. I love the Buddha. When I did a Tibetan 40-day fast after my divorce and when my mom moved in, because I was like so, I felt so overwhelmed and I didn't know how to. I just felt overwhelmed. I was just going on running and just doing and going on my adrenaline. And a friend of mine who's very spiritual just said, I want you to talk to this monk who basically gave me this Tibetan chant that I had to. I had to say it. It was Dawn knows because I did it for 40 days, and I had to fast from sundown to sunrise, no water, for 40 days.
Impossible.
And it was so difficult, and it was in Sanskrit, so I didn't know how to pronounce these words, and it was a page and a half. By the end of the 40 days, I had it memorized. I could do, and you had to do it 20 times with a candle at sundown every day. And honestly,
I remember one time, and she had to do it at a certain time. So one time we had a meeting, and so we're driving back from the meeting, and she goes, "I got it." In my car, she's holding a candle.
Burning in the car.
Yeah, for 40 minutes, I'm listening to this chant.
And I'm saying these words that I have no idea what I'm saying, and it's the most, and it's incredible. But honestly, my life felt so different at the end of those 40 days, and life changed, and I cleansed I don't know what it was, but it was amazing. That was
the suffering and what you did about it. That was what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love that story, and I'm going to put those words.
I'll send that link to you. Yeah.
Well, I want to do that. All right. Well, listen, thank you so much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Everybody, you will have all this information, and Dan's gonna be our muse, and so I'll see you all in Kona. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see you in Kona.
Everyone come. Everyone come.
Everybody go to Kona.
Right. Just make it easier. It would make it a lot easier.
I have something to say first. You know what?
Sorry. What?
Love is powerful, love is contagious, and love conquers all. Thanks. We'll see you next time.
And
Thank you, Dan.
subscribe and share. This is such a great story. Don't forget.